One thing you'll never see a bitch like me doing is arguing with one of you hoes. Cause you wanna know why? Bitch, I don't know how to argue. I'm gonna run out of shit to say. And bitch, soon as I stutter, I'm gonna smacking the shit at you. Cause hoe, I don't know what the fuck to say. You got me stuttering, hoe, and now I'm finna smack the fuck at you cause you got me looking dumb, bitch.
Look, please stop shooting for these I'm trying to tell you, I'm not lying though. Love tonight. Don't get baby shit up. I might be drunk, but I ain't stupid on the loose. Because that's not your fault. You was on the phone.
In February 2024, a 20-year-old mother named Mahogany Jackson vanished from Birmingham, Alabama. Hours before her body was found, she sent a cryptic text to her mother. Send the police apartment 3 held hostage, don't call. It was the last message she would ever send. What followed was a discovery that shocked even seasoned investigators. Mahogany wasn't a victim of random violence. She had been lured, restrained, tortured, sexually assaulted, and executed. Her killers weren't strangers. They were people she once laughed with, trusted, and called friends. 8 individuals, men and women, were arrested for their role in a killing so calculated and cruel, police compared it to orchestrated execution. Surveillance footage, text messages, and even graphic torture videos recorded by the suspects themselves provided investigators with irrefutable proof. These videos weren't just evidence. They were displays of dominance, punishment, and groupthink. What started over a stolen gun spiraled into hours of sadistic abuse. Mahogany's death wasn't quiet. It was filmed, shared, and watched. The public outcry was immediate. Her family begged for the videos to stop circulating. Prosecutors called it one of Alabama's most vicious crimes and made it clear they would seek the death penalty for every person involved.
All 8 defendants in the Mahogany Jackson case in court today for a pre-trial hearing. Jackson was kidnapped and murdered nearly a year ago. Our WVTM 13's Aaron Llewellyn was in court today and has been following this story closely for us. Aaron, you're joining us here in studio. What's the latest?
Yeah, Brittany, it was a very quick process for the hearings in court today. Now, court lasted no longer than 30 minutes, and during that time, all 8 of the defendants' legal teams stood before the judge to give them an update on the case, but there's still a long way to go before it reaches trial. Now, the judge asked if the state was ready to offer the defendants plea deals, but it declined. That's because it's seeking the death penalty. The state says it handed over all the evidence it has to the defendants' legal teams, and one of the defense attorneys said it was more evidence than he's seen on any other case. That's because a lot of what happened almost a year ago when Mahogany Jackson was kidnapped and killed was caught on camera. And today, Jackson's family was in the court, and Jefferson County District Attorney Danny Carr says there's a long way to go before the process is over, but he hopes they stay encouraged.
This is a story of betrayal from within, a chilling insight into group-fueled violence, and how jealousy, grudges, and manipulation led to the death of a young mother. What makes a person capable of watching, filming, and participating in murder? Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. Mahogany Jackson was a young woman actively working to change the trajectory of her life. Born and raised in Jasper, Alabama, she eventually relocated to Birmingham where she sought better opportunities and a fresh start. She took initiative by opening her own hair salon, which quickly gained attention in her neighborhood for providing affordable and stylish services. Those who knew her described her as independent, resilient, and ambitious. As a single mother, she was known to balance motherhood with entrepreneurship. And at just 20 years old, she managed to maintain her business while raising a daughter on her own. In early 2024, she had reportedly begun efforts to reconnect with her mother and ensure her daughter had more family support. Despite her growing reputation as a businesswoman and responsible parent, Mahogany kept certain connections from her past. Some of these relationships extended to ex-roommates and childhood friends who hadn't left the same troubled paths. Sources close to the case indicated that Mahogany often believed in second chances. This made her vulnerable to re-engaging with individuals whose lifestyles were unstable or even dangerous. Her desire to stay loyal and help people grow may have placed her in the orbit of people who didn't have her best interests at heart. What role does loyalty play in keeping dangerous people in your life? The people later charged in Mahogany's murder were not random attackers. They were individuals from her social circle, people she had known for years. Several were longtime acquaintances from her teenage years, ex-roommates, or people she had stayed connected with through social media. Their relationships may have appeared friendly on the surface, but reports indicate the dynamics within this group had grown toxic over time. Underlying jealousy was a common theme. Mahogany's growing success, online following, and status as a business owner may have stirred resentment. In group messages and social circles, there were rumors, accusations, and personal attacks directed at her. Conflicts escalated from verbal exchanges to confrontations rooted in suspicion and distrust. The final trigger appears to have been a stolen firearm. Mahogany reportedly believed one of her associates had stolen her gun. Rather than handle it discreetly, she decided to confront the individual directly. This confrontation occurred days before her death and was witnessed by others in a shared circle. The situation rapidly deteriorated. Some of the individuals involved had criminal records and prior histories of violent behavior. Mahogany may not have fully grasped how far some of these individuals were willing to go to send a message or retaliate. The confrontation over the gun planted the seed for what became a premeditated group act of torture and murder. When do group dynamics turn from gossip to coordinated violence? On the evening of February 24th, 2024, Mahogany went to visit someone she considered a friend at Serenity Apartments in Birmingham. The unit was a known gathering spot for people in her circle. There were no indications that she was scared or suspicious. It's believed she was lured there under false pretenses, possibly told to come by for conversation, reconciliation, or to settle the firearm dispute. The moment she entered apartment unit 3, she was ambushed. Her phone was immediately taken. She was forcibly restrained and prevented from leaving. The doors were locked. She was now a hostage. What happened next was hours of prolonged and brutal abuse. Mahogany was subjected to repeated beatings, blunt force trauma, sexual assault, and psychological torture. Some of the perpetrators took turns recording videos of the abuse using their phones. In these clips, later used as evidence, Mahogany can be seen restrained and being attacked while others in the room laughed, taunted her, or did nothing to intervene. The group involvement is one of the most disturbing aspects of this case. Several individuals participated in different ways, physically attacking her, filming, moving her to another location, or simply watching. No one stepped in to stop the violence. Instead, they allowed it to escalate. The abuse lasted several hours and was spread across at least 2 locations. Eventually, Mahogany was transported from the apartment to a second site, possibly realizing she would not survive. She managed to text her mother a short message. Send the police apartment 3 held hostage, don't call. The message included a pin drop location. Her mother immediately contacted police. But by the time authorities arrived at the apartment, Mahogany had already been moved. She was executed with a gunshot to the back of the head in the early hours of February 26th. Her body was found discarded beneath a mattress at a local dump site. What drives a group of people to join in on one act of torture? As investigators began piecing together the brutal murder of 20-year-old Mahogany Jackson in Birmingham, Alabama, they were immediately confronted with overwhelming digital evidence. The individuals involved in her death did not attempt to hide their crimes. Instead, they documented them in real time. Multiple videos were recorded by the perpetrators using cell phones. These videos captured hours of torture, including physical beatings, sexual assault, and verbal degradation. Some footage showed Mahogany being tied up, restrained, mocked, and physically assaulted by multiple individuals. She was slapped, kicked, and dragged on camera. In certain clips, the suspects could be heard laughing, talking casually, and giving instructions to one another, demonstrating coordination and shared intent. Several of these recordings were uploaded to Facebook. Others were shared through direct messages and eventually surfaced on Reddit. Social media users began circulating the content, sometimes accompanied by false or misleading information. Though some users expressed concern and attempted to report the content, the videos had already been downloaded and reposted across multiple platforms by the time authorities were alerted. For law enforcement, the footage proved invaluable. It offered visual confirmation of who was present, who participated, and what actions were taken. Investigators used timestamps from the videos to construct a timeline of abuse and torture. Through frame-by-frame analysis, they identified individual suspects, matched voice recordings, and tracked the locations where Mahogany was moved throughout the ordeal. Prosecutors later stated that the videos contained clear and compelling evidence of premeditation and active participation by all 8 individuals charged in the case. Each suspect was seen or heard either engaging in violence, encouraging it, or filming it. Some were identified as physically restraining Mahogany, while others inflicted harm or recorded the events without intervening. The release and spread of the footage caused a secondary crisis. Mahogany's family, particularly her mother, issued multiple public statements pleading for the videos to be taken down. Her mother said the footage was re-traumatizing and dehumanizing. Community leaders echoed the call, warning that the content served no purpose other than to perpetuate violence and disrespect the deceased. Authorities also raised concerns that the sharing of the videos could compromise ongoing investigations, re-traumatize viewers, and further victimize Mahogany post-mortem. Despite these warnings, the content continued to circulate in various corners of the internet. Law enforcement has not yet indicated whether charges related to digital distribution will be filed against those who shared the content. Should sharing graphic videos online be criminalized? While the abuse was ongoing, Mahogany Jackson managed to get hold of a phone. At some point during her captivity, likely when the suspects were distracted or changing locations, she sent a message to her mother. It was brief, direct, and urgent. Send the police apartment 3 held hostage, don't call. The message included a location pin, pointing to Serenity Apartments in Birmingham. The phrasing of the text was significant. It conveyed urgency, confirmed that she was being held against her will, and emphasized silence, indicating that a phone call might alert her captors. Her mother received the message and immediately contacted authorities. A 911 call was placed, and police were dispatched to the address. However, by the time officers arrived at apartment 3, Mahogany was no longer there. The suspects had already moved her to another location. Law enforcement officials believe that the group anticipated police involvement or noticed Mahogany using a phone and reacted quickly. They transported her to a secondary site, one that investigators later identified as a location where her execution occurred. The delay between the message and the police arrival was likely a matter of minutes, but it was enough to prevent a rescue. This final message is now a critical part of the case timeline. It proves Mahogany was alive and aware during her captivity, and confirms she made an effort to survive. It also serves as evidence of her abduction, and undermines any claims of voluntary presence at the crime scenes. At approximately 2 a.m. on February 26, 2024, Birmingham police were alerted to a possible crime scene at a known illegal dump site near 17th Street Southwest and Laurel Avenue. Acting on investigative leads, including phone tracking data and tips from residents, officers arrived at the site and made a grim discovery. Mahogany Jackson's body was located underneath a pile of discarded materials, including old mattresses and debris. Forensic teams quickly secured the scene. Upon initial examination, Mahogany was found to have sustained a gunshot wound to the back of the head, an execution-style killing. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Further autopsy reports confirmed the full extent of her injuries. In addition to the fatal gunshot, Mahogany had suffered numerous blunt force trauma wounds across her face, torso, and limbs. Evidence of prolonged assault was consistent with the recordings found on the suspect's phones. She also had injuries consistent with sexual assault. Bruising patterns indicated that she had been restrained for hours. Investigators determined that Mahogany had been murdered less than 2 hours before her body was discovered. The time frame aligned with the sequence of events in the video footage, phone data, and the last known message she sent. The location of her body also suggested an attempt to hide or delay the discovery. By choosing a site already known for illegal dumping, the perpetrators may have assumed that any discovery would be delayed or that the body would not be noticed for days. However, police acted quickly on the digital trail left behind, making the recovery of her remain swift. This scene marked the end of Mahogany's ordeal, but also provided key physical evidence. DNA samples, fingerprints, and tire tracks were collected at the site. Ballistic evidence linked the weapon used to at least one of the suspects. Combined with the video content, this formed the foundation for the capital murder charges filed against all 8 individuals. Mahogany's body was later released to her family, who held a private memorial. Her death marked one of the most brutal group homicides in recent Alabama history. Prosecutors, investigators, and forensic experts all agreed that the evidence, both physical and digital, left little room for doubt about the organized, intentional nature of her killing. In the days following the discovery of Mahogany Jackson's body, Birmingham police conducted an extensive investigation that led to the arrest of 8 individuals, all of whom were known acquaintances of the victim. Surveillance video, digital communications, and graphic footage recovered from phones and social media platforms helped law enforcement identify and confirm the involvement of each suspect. The primary suspects named publicly include Brandon Pope, Francis Harris, Jeremiah McDowell, 5 additional unnamed individuals, pending formal identification through grand jury documents and subsequent court records. The charges filed against these suspects were among the most severe available under Alabama state law. Capital murder, based on the premeditated and torturous nature of the homicide. First-degree kidnapping, for the act of restraining Mahogany against her will for several hours across multiple locations. First-degree rape and sodomy, due to confirmed sexual assault during her captivity, as verified by medical examiners and corroborated through explicit video footage recovered by police. Felony murder, initially applied before a grand jury upgraded the charge to capital murder once full evidence was presented, including phone records, video timestamps, and coordinated suspect movements.
Right now, a major update in a shocking and difficult murder case. All 8 suspects in the Mahogany Jackson killing will now face the death penalty. Now, she's the young mother who was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. And tonight, her mother tells us she believes all of those suspects deserve whatever they get. Your reporter, Bria Chapman, keeping you on top of this case from the very beginning, joining us now in studio. Bria, you talked to family and prosecutors. What are they saying?
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. So I spoke to Mahogany's mother this afternoon, asking her what her reaction is to all 8 suspects facing the death penalty. And she tells me she agrees with it because they showed her child no mercy. Gail Shearer says these suspects laughed as they tortured her daughter, and she didn't have a judge nor a jury. All she wants now is justice for Mahogany. Prosecutors say the suspects recorded a lot of what happened to Mahogany, including her being beaten and sexually assaulted. Most of those suspects just stood and listened today as their indictments were read in court. Now, all pleaded not guilty, and we asked District Attorney Danny Carr why the state is seeking the death penalty against them.
If there's an aggravating factor that's involved, then those cases are eligible for the death penalty. We typically don't do what they call seek the death penalty. If a case is eligible based on the facts in the law, then we charge them as such, as we did in this case. All these separate cases will have dispositions, so we'll see what happens, whether it's a long stint in jail, being in prison the rest of your life, or ultimately the death penalty.
Now in September, charges were upgraded to capital murder for all 8 individuals. Now they will be back in court for a pre-trial hearing on February 18th. Morgan.
Thank you, Bree.
Authorities stated that each of the 8 suspects played a direct and active role in the events that led to Mahogany Jackson's death. Roles included physical abuse. Several suspects took turns beating the victim. Sexual assault. At least 3 participated in or facilitated sexual violence. Filming the crime. Multiple suspects used their phones to record and distribute graphic content. Transporting the body. Others were involved in moving Mahogany's body from the original apartment location to a dump site, where it was ultimately discovered. Birmingham law enforcement officials confirmed that all defendants were denied bail at their initial hearings due to the severity of the charges and the strength of video and physical evidence. Each suspect had a separate preliminary hearing where evidence, such as digital files, text, and footage was introduced to establish probable cause. As of early 2025, all suspects remain in custody awaiting trial, with no plea agreements publicly announced. Once news of the case reached the media, the story began receiving widespread local and national coverage. Among the first outlets to report the case were CBS 42 Birmingham, AL.com, People Magazine, the Associated Press. As more information surfaced, including the fact that the crime had been filmed and distributed online, public outrage intensified. Social media platforms, especially Facebook and Reddit, were flooded with posts, hashtags, and reactions. The hashtag Justice for Mahogany quickly gained traction, with many users expressing anger over both the brutality of the crime and the disturbing circulation of the torture footage. There were multiple calls for platforms to remove the graphic videos, but clips continued to circulate despite moderation efforts. Mahogany's family released public statements pleading with the community to stop watching and sharing the footage, calling it a violation of dignity and a source of re-traumatization. Offline, members of the Birmingham community responded with organized memorials and protests. A significant vigil took place outside Serenity Apartments, where Mahogany had been held captive. Approximately 100 people attended, releasing pink balloons, a symbol tied to Mahogany's favorite color and her role as a mother to a young daughter. Community leaders and local clergy spoke about the need for unity, awareness, and legal reform. In the wake of the graphic video's viral circulation, activists began lobbying for stronger digital crime legislation, demanding that filming and distributing acts of violence carry the same weight as committing them. A petition demanding the maximum penalty for all suspects gathered thousands of signatures, aiming to pressure the district attorney to pursue the death penalty without leniency. Should filming a violent crime and not intervening be punished the same as physically committing the act? Following the arrests, the case proceeded to the standard judicial process in Alabama. A Jefferson County grand jury reviewed evidence gathered by investigators, including cell phone videos, autopsy reports, DNA samples, eyewitness testimonies, geolocation, and text message data. In December 2024, the state of Alabama formally announced its intent to seek the death penalty against all 8 defendants. Prosecutors argued that the heinous, torturous nature of the crime met the legal threshold for capital punishment, emphasizing the prolonged suffering inflicted on the victim and the group participation in every stage of the crime. The district attorney's office released a statement calling the act an intentional, premeditated, and collaborative execution. Prosecutors made it clear that there would be no plea deals for those who were fully aware and participatory in the crime, noting that the level of coordination and cruelty surpassed that of most local homicide cases in recent memory. Defense attorneys for the suspects responded by raising a series of common defenses: mental illness, claims that some participants lacked full cognitive awareness or emotional control, peer pressure, arguments that younger participants were coerced by older or dominant members of the group, lack of premeditation. Some lawyers contended that the crime had not been planned in advance but escalated spontaneously. Despite these early defenses, legal analysts noted that video footage showing coordinated planning and execution could severely undercut any claims of diminished responsibility. The trial is scheduled to begin in late 2025, with pre-trial hearings and evidence motions currently underway. Key legal developments include prosecution submission of over 6 hours of video evidence, forensic analysis of mobile phones and cloud backups, witness lists including law enforcement, digital forensic analysts, and Mahogany's family members, motion from defense teams to suppress certain videos on grounds of prejudicial impact, denied by judge. The upcoming trial is expected to be one of Alabama's most closely followed homicide cases in the past decade, due to the severity of the torture, involvement of multiple suspects, graphic video evidence, ongoing public interest, and media scrutiny. The murder of Mahogany Jackson, a 20-year-old mother from Birmingham, Alabama, leaves behind a trail of unanswered questions that point not only to the brutality of her killers, but to a wider breakdown of community response, digital ethics, and justice systems. Despite video evidence and multiple arrests, investigators are still sorting through gaps in the timeline and the role of bystanders in her final hours. One key question remains: why did no one in the apartment complex intervene? Mahogany was held in Unit 3 of the Serenity Apartments, a multi-unit building in a populated area. Witnesses later admitted to hearing screaming and commotion, yet number 911 calls were made from within the complex during the time of her abuse. The lack of immediate response raises concerns about fear, complicity, or apathy among nearby residents. Another issue is whether others knew she was being abused or held hostage. The torture lasted for hours, and it was not quiet. She texted her mother with a plea that included her location. Her captors recorded the abuse and posted videos on social media, some of which were seen by people who knew the perpetrators or victim. The silence from those who may have known about her captivity remains a central point of frustration for law enforcement. The nature of the crime also prompts the question: was it spontaneous violence or premeditated execution? While the confrontation reportedly began over a stolen firearm, the level of brutality, combined with multiple locations, recorded footage, and participation by 8 people, suggests planning and coordination. Investigators continue to review phone records, text messages, and prior conversations among the suspects. There is also speculation about additional accomplices or bystanders who may have helped cover up evidence or transport the body. Mahogany's corpse was found hidden beneath mattresses at a dump site roughly 15 minutes away from the apartment. The movement of her body required transportation and concealment. If others aided in that process, they could face accessory charges. Law enforcement has not ruled out further arrests. Another ongoing legal concern involves the possibility that one or more suspects may take a plea deal. With 8 people charged, prosecutors may leverage testimony from one against the others in exchange for reduced sentencing. So far, no confirmed deals have been announced, but multiple defense teams have requested separate trials and independent psychological evaluations, hinting at differing legal strategies. What would you do if you saw signs someone was being held captive in your neighborhood? Would you act or remain silent? Mahogany's young daughter is now being raised by her extended family. The salon she worked hard to establish was permanently closed following her death. A memorial fund has been set up to support her child's future education. Her death is not just a tragedy. It is an example of betrayal by those she trusted, the danger of inaction, and the disturbing reality of crimes being recorded for entertainment or intimidation. This case highlights the growing role of digital cruelty, where torture becomes content and silence becomes complicity. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.